So glad you guys are here joining us for our season all about relationships. Here we are. It is February 2024. I'm still getting used to saying that 2024. And it still sounds funny coming out of my mouth. But here we are, February 2024. And I really wanted to spend this month focusing on relationships. Now, I know, you guys, I'm a single mom, okay? February for me and my kids means eventually Valentine's, and we're still in the phase with my youngest, who he's still into the Valentine's and creating gifts and candy and all that kind of stuff. My two older ones are just in a totally different phase of life with this whole Valentine's thing. One just could care less, and the other one is kind of got his eye on a specific young lady, and so he's taken this whole time a different way. And for me, I've never really been like, woohoo, Valentine's Day, February, yay. I've never really, I don't know, I've never really enjoyed it. Even when I was married, it wasn't a great, I don't know, I just never enjoyed it. And so when I talk about relationships, I'm not talking about let's go get a Valentine card. And no, in the relationships that we're going to focus on in this specific podcast is going to be, hey, the reality is if you're listening to this, you value relationships. Whether you are a counselor and you have clients coming your way, whether you are a friend that just wants to be able to have space for somebody, whether you're a pastoral care leader and you oversee a ministry, or you're doing biblical counseling or friendship counseling on a day to day basis, or even coaching, we all have relationships that impact our daily lives. And so the next 4 weeks, we're going to focus on four different relationships that can either make or break our counseling, our coaching, the way that we show up for other people. And so today we're going to focus primarily on the client relationship. Now, I fully realize that this is so amazing because I have some of you guys have reached out and say, Bethany, I love your podcast. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a coach. I'm not even a mental health professional. I just like to offer space for people to be. And I'm so curious on how you're doing that. Yes. And that's what I love about this podcast is yes, you're welcome here. You have a space here. Please come be part of this. At the same time, some of this may be a little far-fetched for you to connect with, but I want you to keep this in mind. Even if you are not paid financially for your time that you spend with other people, you pay in other ways. You pay in energy, you pay in losing that time with other people, you pay in just the energy that goes out as you spend time with that person. And so I want you to know that regardless of where you are in this, that you are offering so much value in just being present with that person. And so don't take yourself out of the game just because you're not have a role or a title or financial gain from this, that you are still valued, that you are still important, that you are in a relationship. Okay, so back to the relationship that we have with clients, whether it's free or paid. How do we measure this? And this is something to be aware of. So there's two different ways, or even three different ways to look at this. One, how does this relationship impact me? So when I have a client and even groups that I run, I have what's called intro calls with every single person. Because here's the thing, if I'm going to be walking with that person, whether it's in a group setting or whether it's one on one, especially if it's one on one, I want to see them in a regular, everyday conversation. I want to get to know them. I want to spend some time figuring out, okay, where are you right now? And what is it that you really want to accomplish in this group or individually during this time that we have together? I want to get to know them. And by the end of that conversation, I have a good feeling of, okay, this person I get energy from. I'm excited to be with. The stuff that they shared, yes, I'm on board with. This lightened me. I'm excited. Or some people, as I'm talking with them, I'm like, this may be really heavy for me or them. Maybe they're not ready for the deep level that we're really going to go to as a group. Maybe they just actually need to try this group that's only 6 weeks as opposed to this week group that's 6 months. There's so many different things that come out of that. And the number one thing that I see, especially coaches specifically, because counselors not don't always get themselves into this trap, coaches can, is that they don't do intro calls, complimentary intro calls with their potential clients. That they'll have a program and they'll have buy here, and lo and behold, and normally this doesn't happen because a lot of times people don't buy things from people that they don't know, like, or trust. But it has happened, and I've heard of this, that people will go and they'll buy a package from someone that they saw a YouTube video about. They never have the intro call. They sign up for like 3 different sessions with someone, and they realize either A, the coach realizes, oh my goodness, this is not a good fit. Or B, the client realizes that's not a good fit. And they may even go through all 3 sessions and then say, oh, can I have my money back? Because I didn't get what I wanted. It just creates it wastes the coach's time, wastes the client's time. And so that's why I really do say that the time and energy that you can put forth from the beginning to really sit and even listen to Jesus, like, hey, together, on the call, live, hey, is this the next best step for both of us? Because it's not just about the client, it's much about the client, is about you. Both of you guys have a say in this. It needs to be a win-win for both sides. And so when we're talking about client relationship, and I mean this in a nice way, and yes, it might sound selfish, but if you're showing up for that person, the very first thing that you should be concerned with is, one, yes, God, do you want me to be with this person right now in this season of life? Are you calling me to be with this person? That should be your first question. And to really sit with that. That is between you and God. Okay. The second question, and this is going to sound, and this is where people disagree, but that's fine. And I will still stand on this because of everything that I've walked through in the years that I've been with people. The second question you should ask is, can I be with this person? Is this going to bring me energy? Is this the type of person that God really wants to have me in relationship with? Just because you're a coach, just because you're a counselor, just because you're an amazing friend does not mean that you need to go to this deep level of relationship, of care with everybody that says they need to be with you. We have a right to tell people no. Now, we have different creative ways of saying that. But just because somebody comes to you and says, wow, I really feel like God wants you to be my mentor right now, I really feel like God wants me to talk to you. That's awesome. I'm glad you feel that way. I didn't get that message. I don't say that quite like that. But we need time to get that message as well. It needs to be a win-win on both sides. The same thing is too, and this is hard, but the same thing goes in the third way is this the right fit for this client right now? You guys, I can't even tell you how many times I've had amazing conversations with people. And when we get to that last little bit where we're really trying to say, okay, is this the right time? Is this really the right way that you need to go right now? And as they're sitting and listening to Jesus, or we're talking about things, it becomes very evident that this is not going to be the right step for them right now, and I have to let them go. You guys, it is so hard, especially when I'm going, oh my goodness, they were so close and I don't understand what God's doing. But here's the thing: if I try to force that to happen, if I try to say promises that I can't ensure on my end, it's not setting them up for success, and it's not setting me up for success. You really have to do and make sure that you keep client first and foremost in your mind. Yes, like I said, and you go through that process. First between you and God, second between, hey, do I have the energy? Do I have the space to be with this person? And then third, wait a second, is this person really the right fit to be with me? And I really do. And number fourth, for my groups, I really do keep this in mind as well. As I keep in mind, okay, I even do kind of sometimes an intro call, like thing for my groups, where even every member of the group goes around, they introduce themselves and they share a little bit. The reason I do that, yes, is to get the relational circuits going and is to start a good foundation. But another reason I do that is I'm stepping back as a facilitator, as somebody that's really looking at the group and going, okay, can this person emotionally regulate? Can this person relate to others in the group? It doesn't have to be perfect. That's why we do these groups. If everybody was perfect at relationships, we wouldn't have a need to do these small groups, okay? We're always learning, we're always building. So I'm not looking for perfection, but I am looking for, can this person contribute? Is this person able to put themselves out there a little bit in the group. And I usually do small groups. I think I've said before on this podcast, the max that I've have in my groups is maybe 8. Usually I try to stop it around 7. Nothing because there's magical with that, but I've noticed in my groups it seems to work well. Or I do 3, 6, 9, so that way we can do triads. And so there's sometimes there's math to it, but sometimes like I'm comfortable with 7. 7 is just a really fun number for me, and it feels good to me, and it feels light for me. It feels energy for me. But again, that comes through experience and showing up and doing a multitude of different groups with different sizes of people. So with that being said, that is another thing that I look for on behalf of the client in that client relationship, what that looks for. So hopefully, if you're starting to really sit with someone and you decide, okay, is this relationship going to work? Is this a good investment of my time, of my energy? Is this something that God wants me to do? Is this right for them? Is this right for the whole group as a whole? All of these are questions that we need to sit with before we sit there and actually have that client sign on the dotted line that they want to be in this plan with us, in this agreement with us, as well as from a professional standpoint and even a mentorship standpoint. We should be able to put a beginning and an end, or at least okay, we made it this far, have we reached the goals? Like, that's more of a coaching thing, but I've also seen it in counseling, and it's very beneficial, is that when they go a certain number of sessions, and the next session is more of like a benchmark session, or I've heard it called, I forgot what it was called, almost like a celebratory or an awareness session, whatever you want to call it. Okay, call it what you want. But the point of that session is to go, okay, you started this journey with these goals. Have we achieved them? Are we there yet? Kind of like when you're the sorry, I'm laughing. Like your kids in the backseat. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? You know? And so you might not ever necessarily get there to their goal because you're actually trying to see that goals might actually change over time. You know, you have to, we steer where we stare, right? You have to have a clear goal in mind. So I don't care if you're counseling and you're like, Bethany, you're talking coaching, that's great. But even if you're counseling, you still have a point that you're trying to get to. Hopefully you do. If not, kind of wondering what you're doing. Okay. You should have that clear cut. Even if you're meeting with somebody and they're asked, hey, for a mentorship relationship, there should be an end goal in mind. So even with groups, there should be an amount of time that you agree to meet. Same thing with these relationships. You owe that to the other person, but you also owe that to yourself, and you owe that to everybody else that you're saying no to because you're meeting with this person. You owe that to everybody in this relationship. And so hopefully those were some really good pointers for you to keep in mind before you sign on the dotted line, before you book time on your calendar, before you decide how much space and time and energy you have, that you really sit down and you say, okay, how is this relationship? How is this client? How is this mentee? How is this pastoral care relationship not only going to affect my relationship with God, but how is it going to affect myself and what I'm able to offer to everyone else and this client? And how is this going to affect this client? How is this really going to sit with them and affect them? And the best 100% tool that I've learned as I'm sitting with that client and determining if this is the right next best step, that's really not up to me. And sometimes it's not even up to them and their mindset at the moment. A lot of times it's up to both of us getting quiet and listening to Jesus together. I have been amazed about how much time that moment, and I only set the clock for a minute to 2 minutes, and I give it some questions to listen around, and then I come back. You guys, sometimes I'm feeling, oh my goodness, this is not the greatest fit. I don't know how this is going to work. And I'll come back, and that client goes, you know what? Jesus told me this isn't the right time. I didn't have to tell him. Or sometimes I'm feeling this is amazing. And Jesus will talk to him and say, yeah, but you've got this and this and this. Are you able to show up on these calls in the right way? Because you're also dealing with these things. And how's that going to look? Is this really the best time? There's things that come across during that time of the call that I can't do on my own, that Jesus does. And he comes in and he speaks truth and he speaks life and he speaks love. That moment has changed so many calls for me. So I will end you with that. If you haven't started doing that with your clients, maybe it's something that you want to think about or even do during your prayer time together with your people, with your mentor, with your mentee, rather, whoever you're meeting with. So hopefully this was of help and guidance. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can connect with me anytime. You can go to the BethanyBoring.com links page and connect with me there. And I would love to answer any questions. And also, I will mention this at the very end. If you are listening to me on Spotify, or I think this link is even in the show notes of any of my shows, you can leave me a voice message and ask me a question about any of this stuff, and I will be glad to answer it live on this podcast. All right, this has been great, and I cannot wait to connect with you guys soon next week. Have a great week, guys. Bye.